So like I mentioned, the twins are having their 37-month birthday next month. And, they're just feeling, I can tell that the stress of quarantine is just getting to them. And so I just want to make it really special. Do you have a notepad?
I can get a notepad. Emily, can you please bring me a notepad, honey? I already brought you something once today, Mom. Just, honey, get Mommy a notepad. Ugh.
Oh my gosh, I had to get closer to get a look at that precious girl.
What a beauty. My kids are just amazing. Here, Mom. Okay, I got a notepad. Thanks, honey. She's so responsible, I can't even. This quarantine has really brought out her inner grown-up. Hashtag, I love my kids.
I just have to say, fiery, fierce, loving. I just can't think of enough adjectives.
Yeah, no, next leader of the free world, for sure. That one, she's gonna do it all.
Okay, Bubblegum Blast. Write this down. Bubblegum Blast is the site you're gonna go to create a.
Okay.
You're gonna create a personalized video snuggle for the twins. The blast opens 10 days before their birthday, but I'm gonna give you an extra 10 days to plan. Don't worry, I'm gonna send you a Google invite. And, if you need some help thinking of what to do, you just download the PDF on the site, make your best blast do's and don'ts.
Okay.
Perfect. Just grab a green screen, a tripod, some costumes. All the kids are going to totally love it, I think.
That sounds so doable. And I just have all this free time between I work all day and then I take care of the kids and I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do with these free 10 minutes? And now I know. I know.
You know what? I feel like it's only going to take 4.5 minutes, maybe 5 minutes, 15 seconds. This is...
Yeah, no, I have so many green screens just lying around. That's no problem. I got it all. What else? Tell me more. Give me more to do.
Okay. Second thing... Okay, you're going to write this down, more marsh and more mallow. That's the site, more marsh, more mellow. It's the collage site that's going to help you make it super easy to decorate your car for the epic car parade.
It's a parade.
I know you live far.
Wow. No, road trip. That's what they say when in quarantine. Road trip. Okay, I'm writing it down.
Okay, so I'm going to send you a link too. It expires in 24 hours. So just make sure to open it and then create your account. Okay, no.
Hold on 1 second. I'm so sorry.
No problem.
Okay. All right. It's okay, Shelby. It's okay. Okay. No, keep going though. I'm sorry. Don't mean to interrupt. Let me just keep writing down these notes.
Oh, no problem. No problem. Oh my gosh, Shelby, she's so cute. Did I tell you that I think the twins are super advanced for their age?
You haven't mentioned that yet, but I'm guessing you're going to tell me all about it now.
I will. But first I want to make sure you have this down. Okay, so You're getting a link. Click on it. Make sure you do that today. Your username is your Star Wars character's name. And then
Star Wars.
Oh my gosh, haven't you already done that click online quiz to find your Star Wars character name?
Star Wars, I want to come to the party. Honey, can you wait in the car where I've been keeping you? Fine. Sorry. Go on. I'm listening. I really am.
No problem. Oh my gosh, they're just so cute kids. I love them.
Emily, hit me. Go to the other side of the garage. Go. Sorry. Keep going.
Okay. Oh, the password. Yeah. It has to have at least 2 of those little squiggly lines and a number that's both a square root and divisible by 3. I mean, I just kept it super private because, I don't want the kids' photos and videos to be all over the internet. So just text me, WhatsApp, whatever, if you forget this.
Okay.
And then,
I got it down. So just the float and the snugglegram and what was the other thing?
Oh, well, I just wanted to give you a tip. We've seen it be So cute if you use your 3D printer to print the decorations for the minivan. Oh my gosh.
Oh, and I totally have those things, a minivan and a 3D printer. You know me so well. Okay, I'm writing that down. All right. I think I'm going to get on all of that. And what a joy it will be to celebrate your children and just like thank you so much for giving us this outlet for our amazing creativity.
Oh my gosh, I knew you would be on board when I thought, who do I want to make sure are in my 75 invitees? You were so top of the list because I was like, she's got a little creativity factory over there.
Oh, thank you so much for thinking of me. Mom, Emily bit me. Mom, I can't find the toilet. Mom.
Well, I really gotta go. It seems like the kids are, oh my gosh, my husband is here. I forgot to tell him that I was on the Zoom. He's got a meeting. Okay, bye.
See ya.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Seven Deadly Sins Motherload. Happy Mother's Day. I am Todd Kelly. I'm going to be one of your hosts for today's show. And I'm joined by the incomparable Alina Aliar. Say hi, Alina.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I hope everybody is doing well, or well enough.
I have to say, I really enjoy that we got to have our very first short film that happened before our own show. That was cool.
And it was fairly spot on. I really have to take my imaginary hat off to both Rebecca and Evelyn for putting that together for us.
Yeah, thank you guys.
How are you, Todd?
I'm doing okay. There's no question, like, I feel blessed. I know that there are people out there who are having a much tougher time than my family is, but it's still tough.
I think that sort of sums it up pretty well. I feel like I am so very aware of the ways in which I'm privileged and lucky. And there are times where I am just in sort of those like very, very dark pits of despair. And that actually seems like where everybody is. You know what I mean?
I do. I have this thing, and people say, like, what are you doing to cope with, to get through all of this? And the answer that I always give is, like, I'm getting really into cooking. I'm cooking a lot. And the thing that is, like, goes unspoken there is, like, I am eating a lot. That is how I'm coping. I am eating a lot.
You're building reserves. It's good. And I know you, and I know you are feeding people as well in the safest manners possible. So,
yeah. Well, how about you? Like, what are you doing to try and take care of yourself?
So it's funny because so I'm still doing online therapy, which I'm very, very grateful for. But my therapist has told me what I really need to do is I need to mother myself. And so which I don't actually think is particularly useful, but I try it. So every night after I brush my teeth, I look at myself in the mirror and I just look at myself and as disappointed as I can in myself. I just try to summon all of that like shame that I can get out there. And I don't know, it's not helping, but it does make me feel a little closer to home.
I'm not sure you're doing that correctly. I could be wrong. I'm not a therapist. I don't know.
I'm not.
Happy Mother's Day, by the way.
Oh, thank you very much. I got a lot of coupons today.
Very good. Very good. For the, I'm assuming soon you'll be able to cash one in for a free I love you, Mom.
Yeah, hopefully. I really do have to. I am so desperate for affection these days. I really do require I like just will try to get any snuggling in out of my son as much as I can, anywhere I can, or just have my daughter like sit down and have a conversation with me. She's like, shouldn't I be sleepy? I'm like, no, tell me more. Tell me about Mesopotamia. I want to know.
I think that's good. Like, I think one of the benefits to having kids at home is like you have something there to help you cope, and anything right now to help cope is good.
Yeah. No, I didn't realize that I was as much of a people person as I am right now. Like I feel like a yellow lab anytime I'm on a walk. I am like, hey, I know you. I know you. Your kid was on my kid's opposing soccer team. I hate you. But let me smile and wave. I'm so excited to see you.
I'm doing, I think, what everybody else is doing. I'm sort of connecting with people in my home, maybe more than I ever have. And I'm doing lots of virtual happy hours. I feel like I know more about the guy who delivers groceries to my house than I know about a lot of the people I went to school with. So I'm, I get human interaction in whenever I can.
I hope tonight offers some nice faces for people out there to look at and hear from.
We should probably say, because I don't think anybody but you and I knows this, we had actually first planned this show about 3 months ago, like December, November, sometime. That's not 3 months. I have lost all track of time. I have no sense. It might have been 3 days ago. It might have been 10 years ago. It's hard to say when December was.
It's lost. No, it's all a blur. The space-time continuum.
But we were originally going to have it a week before now, on the 3rd. And do you remember? You remember why, right?
Oh yeah, I remember why. Our original plan was to call this show "Mommy Dearest," but that seemed a little dark to put on Mother's Day, and it also seemed a little dark from what we needed right now.
Right. So this might actually be, I dare say, the nicest show we've ever produced.
I know, and it wasn't even hard for us to do. I mean, like, to cross that threshold, right?
I think we're all longing for something nice and soft and cuddly, and loving.
Yeah. Especially after Murder Hornets.
So real quick, let me run through the show. For those of you who've never seen our show before, we have people tell live, real, true stories that they've happened in their life. All of these are going to be about mothers, being a mother, having a mother, everything that goes into that. And you're going to be hearing from some fantastic people. We have Pat McCreary, Jennifer Angst, Erin Haley, and Margot Lightman. Some people who've been on our show before, some people who we've been trying to get on this show for over a year. And so it's fun that we be able to get to do this.
And then between these stories, you're going to hear musical interludes that were composed by Louise Woodward, and it's really amazing because when you hear them, you'll hear layers upon layers of music, and you think you're listening to an actual quartet, but it was just her in her home studio.
Oh, and there's the graphic, which means I guess we're starting now. So enjoy the show, everybody. It's going to be great, and we'll see you after it's all done.
In June of 1987, after school got out, there was a day where my dad and stepmom took my sister and I down to the train station in Eugene, Oregon, not to take the train, but to catch the green tortoise, which is commonly referred to as the hippie bus that runs between, I think, Vancouver, BC and Baja, California. And we were getting on in Eugene to take it as far as Williams, California, because my sister and I, she 17 at the time, myself 14, on the cusp of turning 15, we're going down to visit my mom in Northern California. My mom had, for the last year, been living at Harbin Hot Springs, which is known as a resort. We referred to it as the hippie commune where nobody wore clothes. We had been down to visit her in November for Thanksgiving, where we enjoyed a naked Thanksgiving dinner. And we were going down, maybe to my father's chagrin, I'm not sure really, but he was game. We were going down to spend a good portion of the summer with my mom. So my sister and I, being the adventurous sort, got on the Green Tortoise bus. We rode all the way down. We stopped at the hot spring. We ate the nice vegetarian meal that they served us. We gave them a mixtape to play on the bus. We did all the things that young teenagers do on a summer adventure, where they're just thinking like, all our friends who are back home doing summer camp, they've got nothing on us. We get off in Williams, California to see my mom, who's waiting for us in a borrowed car to take us back to Harbin Hot Springs, about an hour and a half drive away. Along the way, she's telling us about all the things she is excited for us to experience this summer at Harbin. There's so much to do. The Watsu massage classes have really been improved. The restaurant is trying some new vegetarian meals that she's excited for us to try. And the hot springs are just phenomenal. So we're pretty excited. We pull up to Harbin and go through the check-in counter, and that's the first place where I realized, like, oh, people really wear no clothes. The woman checking us in has her breasts bare, and me and my 14-year-old wonder am both excited by that, but also realizing at that point that, oh, breasts are different. They're really different. So we go in and Mom gets us settled. I should point out, Mom did pick us up wearing clothes. That part is probably important. She didn't show up at the bus stop naked. But she takes us to her room, and we meet her roommates, because of course, being a commune, nobody has their own space. It's all shared. One of her roommates is a self-proclaimed Jew for Jesus from New York, incredibly wealthy, but wanting to distance herself from her family. Another of her roommate is a former Rajneeshi, recently relocated because Rajneeshpuram had just broken up. So she and her boyfriend had relocated to Harbin Hot Springs. So she introduces us to them and talks about the confines of the shared space, and we're all good. And then she also introduces us to her new boyfriend, Bob. Bob seems like a nice guy. We're still dealing with kind of what it means to have parents who are divorced and have one who's on a hippie commune and another who's giving us a semblance of a stable life. But we meet Bob, and he's fine, and Bob makes a point of saying, it's really nice to meet you. I'm here to learn the art of Watsu, which I referred to earlier. I should fill you in that if you're familiar with the Japanese massage style known as shiatsu, Watsu is a particular offshoot of shiatsu that was developed specifically at Harbin Hot Springs. Think of it as shiatsu done in water. So you're done while being held in water. You are given the massage that way. So Bob's pretty excited about that. Fast forward a couple days, I'd had some days to kind of walk around, get my feel of the place, kind of make it my home for a while. I should let you know that while most of the people, all of the people at the hot spring fully embraced the clothing optional part, I did not. I might have been the only person actually at Harbin Hot Springs who didn't. My choice of attire for some reason was spandex bike shorts. Though I don't know if they were popular at the time or what. Looking back, I have a sense that they helped me feel as naked as I could be without actually being naked. So I got to know the grounds, decked out in my spandex shorts, noticing all the folks, most of them older, very few of them my age. And we were there about a week when June 21st rolls around, and that's important because that's my birthday. So June 21st, we have a wonderful day. My mom greets me in the morning with a nice blueberry compote oatmeal breakfast. and says happy birthday. And then later that evening, we gather on the sun deck. Everybody's in their sun deck attire, evening attire, which is essentially a sarong around the waist. And we're celebrating my birthday. It was great. I was turning 15, the 15-year-old's dream. We go around and people give gifts. The Jew for Jesus tells me that she's going to take me to San Rafael for the day and take me out to lunch and teach me how to tip like proper people do. Bob tells me he's going to give me a complimentary 1-hour Watsu massage, and I cannot tell you how excited I was for that. The former Rajneeshi gave me a great smile, just a heartwarming smile for my birthday gift. That was fun. And my mom gave me a box of Tiger Milk bars, carob around like a soy center, which I loved. They were great, and that's really all the store had to offer. But with it, she said, and with this is the gift of anything you want to do while you're here, I will give it to you. You get to pick one thing you want to do, and we'll do that. So I said, thanks, Mom, that's great. And then I look at my sister, because it's her turn, and she kind of looks at me with this stare of like, happy birthday. And I think, you didn't get me anything. You got me nothing for my birthday. And she looks at me and she's like, I know, but I'm barely holding on. And what she actually is holding on to is a cake that she and my mom made. It was a beautiful birthday cake purchased from the finest ingredients that the local store had to offer. White box mix cake and chocolate frosting. But the pièce de résistance was that on top of it, fashioned out of granola, was a beautiful 1 and a 5, marking my 15th birthday. And my sister's looking at me like, dude, this is the best I could do. And I looked at her at the time with a dim-witted 15-year-old's brain and said, yeah, thanks for no gift, sis. And I kind of just let that sit there. And we had cake, and it was fine. And I looked at the sagging boobs and then went to bed and thought that was my 15th birthday. But I thought about that gift my mom gave me, that gift of anything I wanted to do. And so for the next couple of days in the communal kitchen, I grabbed onto whatever publication I could find. And I found one that was kind of like a Willamette Week of the Bay Area or North Bay Area, and saw that about a week away, the band Squeeze and the Untouchables were playing at Marriott's Great America. And I didn't know Squeeze that well. I have come to love them since, but I knew the Untouchables, and I thought, I want that. I want to go to a concert. And so I told my mom, I said, Mom, for my birthday, I found my gift. I want to go to this concert at Marriott's Great America. And she looked at me a little puzzled because it was, in fact, 3 hours away, and she didn't have a car. And she had to figure that out, but she was a woman of her word and said, okay, we'll make it happen. So she comes back to me a day later and says, we got to figure it out. Bob is going to take you to Marriott's Great America in his car. And I said, great. And my sister said, and Mom, you and I are going too, right? And she said, well, we weren't planning on it, but sure, we'll all go. So a couple days later, it's a family adventure plus Bob. And we drive to Marriott's Great America, where they, the three of them, send me into the concert, where for 3 hours I fell in love with the band Squeeze, loved the Untouchables as well. Not such a great future for them, unfortunately. And came out later to find my sister looking at me like, okay, is it over? Can we go? And the three of us went back to a Motel 6 where we stayed the night, and then the next day we went back to Harbin Hot Springs. And I thought, all right, so my birthday gift was I got the hell off of that commune for just a little bit. And then a few days later, I just start realizing that I am not cut out for communal hippie living. I'd seen enough nakedness. I'd been in the hot spring enough, sometimes being held with a massage, sometimes not, that I just needed to get the hell out of there. And so I made up some, now I know, false excuse to get off the commune. I said, Mom, I forgot to tell you. I have registered for the Butte to Butte 10K road race back home in Eugene. I need to get back. I forgot about it. It's on July 4th every year. And so July 3rd, about a week before I was scheduled to go, I said, Mom, I got to get home. And she figured out a way for me to get on a Greyhound bus back in Williams, California, take it all the way up to Eugene. I got back home in Eugene at about 10 p.m. on July 3rd. Woke up and did the road race the next day out of guilt because I felt like I had to. And only later realized that I absolutely abandoned my sister at Harbin Hot Springs. And what she did for the rest of her summer adventure at the commune, I still don't really know. And I trust she survived. She seems okay at this point. And after all of that, I've realized a couple of things. I've realized, number one, there was a period of about 3 weeks in my life where I either didn't have a mother or I had two mothers, both my mom and my sister, or I had a mom who wasn't my mom and my sister, and that she was looking out for me. And I realized I owe a couple of apologies. I owe my sister an apology because I chastised her for not getting me a birthday gift, when really what she did was, for about 3 weeks, she provided an anchor for me in a sea of instability. And for that, I am eternally grateful, and I will forever regret the selfish 15-year-old that I was. And I owe my mom a thank you of sorts as well, for providing a terrible example. I would never, ever wish upon anybody, my own kids in particular, what I experienced. However, I would never trade that for anything. And I find that now, as we are all collectively swimming in a sea of instability, I find myself weirdly prepared, feeling almost like I've been here before, just not wearing spandex shorts.
When I was in high school, my friends used to tease me by telling me how I was just like my mom. I don't know who talks more, you or your mom, they used to say. I, of course, did not agree with this. I'm nothing like her, I used to say. The truth is, both Mom and I have a reputation in the family for talking and telling stories, but Mom, I always believed, was on a totally different level. After all, you couldn't go anywhere without her striking up a conversation with someone, restaurant, gas station, the grocery store. She always chatted people up. But it wasn't just that Mom liked to talk. It was that Mom was loud, she was direct, and she was opinionated. And this was very embarrassing to 16-year-old me. In fact, I remember being embarrassed to be seen with her when I was in high school. From the way that she dressed to the way that she talked, she was decidedly uncool. Most days, Mom wore the exact same outfit, a black top, black pants, white sneakers, and red lipstick. And, I remember being at school functions where Mom sometimes would be so loud that you could hear her from across the room. And I used to wish, why can't she be quieter? Why can't she be like the other moms? So one weekend, Mom and I left our home in Southern California to go up to the local mountains for a mother-daughter weekend. So we drive across Los Angeles up to Big Bear, and it's late Friday night, and we're driving on this little small 2-lane road in the mountains looking for a place to stay. So we see a roadside motel and pull in, and even as we're pulling in, you can see that this is just like a crappy, dilapidated place. There's a bunch of cabins spread out in the woods, and they just look abandoned. And even in the dark, the cabins, the roofs are sagging, and it just looks sad. But we check in, and the manager gives us a key for our cabin, which is the furthest one in the back. So we pull in, park the car, get out, and it's a cold, dark night. The ground is frozen ice, and we're, just trying to get our bags out of the trunk of the car. And all of a sudden, we hear this voice behind us. Hey, do you ladies need some help? And Mom whips around and says in a very firm voice, no, thank you, we're all set. And, I look at this guy, and he is a big guy, easily over 200 pounds, with a little black ponytail and decked out in a full leather outfit for riding his motorcycle. And you can see his big blue shiny motorcycle across the way. And Mom just decisively grabs our bags and slams the trunk and walks away from this guy. So I follow. We get into the cabin, she locks the cabin, and, she's sort of muttering out loud, this place is so crappy, it's moldy and musty, and the doors are flimsy, and it just looks like it hasn't been cleaned thoroughly in a long time. And Mom's looking around for a phone, and as soon as she realizes that there's not one, she tells me she's going to run up to the front office and, sit tight, I'll be right back, but keep this door locked. So I lock the door, sit on the bed, and wait. A couple minutes go by, and I hear some talking outside, and it's Mom and this guy talking. And I'm thinking, God, she talks to everyone. And I'm so impatient and frustrated, she always talks to every single person. But within like a matter of seconds, she runs up to the front door. She knocks furiously on the door. Let me in, let me in. And I, unlock the door, and she comes in, slams the door, locks it, grabs the chair and puts it under the door handle, which I think is an overreaction. But within seconds, this guy is knocking at the front door, and he says, "Hey, can I take you ladies out to dinner?" And Mom stands there and says in a very firm voice, "No, thank you." And then he starts walking around the perimeter of our cabin. Crunch, crunch, crunch. You can hear his footsteps on the ice. And he sort of knocks on the window, and he says, "Come on, let me take you ladies out." Crunch, crunch, crunch. He's walking behind. Crunch, crunch, crunch. And he comes around back to the front door, and he starts kind of knocking on the door and kind of pushing against the door, and he says, "Hey, let me in. Why didn't you guys let me in?" And I'm sitting there frozen on the bed, but Mom has sprung into action. She is running around this little cabin looking for something, muttering out loud in the little kitchenette area, like throwing open drawers, looking for something. And she says out loud, "I can't believe there's not a knife in here. Why isn't there a knife? What kind of goddamn place doesn't have anything in here?" And I'm thinking, knife? A knife seems too much. And she's slamming the door shut, and she's looking around, and she sees on the wall next to the fireplace, there's like a sort of fake fireplace poker thing on the wall. And she grabs this thing, and she stands holding this poker in an athletic stance facing the door, and her eyes are fierce, and she is ready to fight. And I look at Mom, and I'm like, Mom's a badass. Like, she's really a badass. And this guy is gone from just knocking to shoving with his shoulders to really slamming the door. And I am convinced this guy's going to break the door down. And my mom whips around and says, "What are you doing? Just sitting on the bed? Grab something to defend yourself." And I'm sort of startled, and I start looking for something. And within seconds, we hear police sirens and, cars squealing in and sirens going and freeze. And this guy is arrested. And we open the door, we see him being put into the back of the patrol car, and come to find out that this guy is wanted in 3 states for armed robbery and assault. He's robbed numerous banks and stolen cars, and of course the motorcycle that is across from us. And, he's taken away. And within seconds, it seems, Mom and I are just left standing there in this grove of trees, just the 2 of us. And I turn to Mom and I say, "Oh, I'm so glad the police came." And she looks at me and she's like, "Who do you think called them?" And she tells me how she went up to the front desk and told the manager to call the police and told him about this guy hassling us. And, she talked about how, there were no phones, and the light was so bad out here. There were no lights where we parked. And it was like, this guy could have killed us. And I looked at her, and I was suddenly so proud of my mom. I thought back to that image of Mom crouching with the poker and how fearless she was. And I thought, she really showed me how to protect yourself. And this is what it looks like to be fearless and to be ready to fight. And, she was really unintimidated and direct with that guy. Every time he spoke to her, she looked like she was not intimidated at all. She didn't show any fear with him. And even when he was slamming against the door, she had this unshakable voice like, "No, thank you, we're fine." And and she advocated for us. She went to the manager and told the manager how important it was to have phones in the cabins and better lighting. And, after that trip, I looked at Mom quite a bit differently. She still talks a lot, but she connects with people all the time, which is something I really admire. And, being loud and direct is how she protected us in that incident. And so, yeah, she's not like other moms. And when I think back to how my friends used to tease me in high school about being like my mom, now, many decades later, I can think of no greater compliment. So thank you, Mom, for everything, and happy Mother's Day.
I have teal hair because of the quarantine. What else can you do, right? So I wanted to tell you a Mother's Day story in honor of my mother. So in 7th, 8th grade, between mother-daughter relationships is not, for many of us, an ideal time. There's a lot of fighting. And for me, the big argument was I never felt like my mom was on my side. So this was also at the time when a lot of my friends were having bar and bat mitzvahs and also confirmations. And I was not jealous of the religious experience as much as I was jealous of the cold, hard cash that they were taking home from these events. I wanted in. So when it came time for my birthday, although I didn't have any of these religious observations going on, I was thrown a surprise party by my neighbor. Now, my neighbor was very hot with big boobs, so everybody came to the party. And what was weird is that everyone gave me cash. I left that party with $250 in cold, hard cash. And then when I walked home from the party, I thought to myself, well, my parents don't know about the party, so they don't need to know about the cash. So I didn't tell them. That weekend, I did what all Jersey girls in the 90s did, which is I went to the mall. And also in the 90s, we were left alone a lot. So I get dropped off at the mall by my mom with my friends, and I basically was on supermarket sweep the entire time. I mean, I pulled whatever I wanted. I mean, I had $250. So, and I picked out all the outfits I could find. And then the next Monday at school, I got dressed. Now, I had 2 working parents. My dad commuted to the city. My mother commuted 40 minutes away, and they were always gone by the time I left for the bus. So they never saw what I was wearing to school. So on that morning, I put on my best new outfit. It was a fluorescent orange one-piece unitard, skin tight. And then on top of it, I put on this like jacket, which was hip at the time, but it was like a zip-up jacket, kind of like a scuba jacket. And it was like half mustard yellow, half fluorescent pink, half fluorescent green on the other side. And it zipped up kind of like a wetsuit. I looked like a bizarro David Bowie. And I walked into middle school that morning and I like strut in like I am so cool. And the next thing I know, I feel a cold, hard hand on my arm. And I look and it's the gym teacher. Now, I hated this gym teacher in middle school. She was a former cheerleader and she was tiny and petite, and I am a giant person. And I was giant then, and I am not the cheerleading type. And so she also that Halloween had come in and worn her high school cheerleading outfit and bragged to the whole school about how it still fits, even though she was in her 40s, and it drove me crazy. This like, still fits. Okay, anyway, so still fits. I called her the dirty poodle. I hated this woman. She grabs me by the arm and she goes, come with me. And she takes me into the principal's office. And I felt like Lee Harvey Oswald, because at the time I was going through this really intense JFK assassination phase. I don't know if anybody else went through this in middle school, but I was like hardcore into the conspiracies. And I had just watched this doc where he was like, I'm a patsy, when he gets pulled away. And I was like, I feel like that. I'm a patsy. So he pulls me away. She pulls me away, the dirty poodle. And she's like, goes to the principal's office and says, stand up in front of the principal. So I stand up and she goes, well, what do you think? And the principal's like, I agree. And I'm like, what do you mean I agree? And they're like, your outfit is not appropriate for school. And I was like, how so? And she's like, it's appropriate for a dance club or a disco or a nightclub, but not for school. And I was like, well, this is what I'm wearing. I'm expressing myself. And they were like, it's distracting. And I was like, this is distracting? More distracting than Jen Caramonico's pregnant belly? And then they said, we're calling your mother. And I was like, why? And they're like, well, you're going home. I'm like, going home for my clothes? And they said, yeah. And I was like, well, she's not going to come. She works 40 minutes away. She's a teacher. She cannot come and she doesn't want to come. This is ridiculous. And they were like, well, we're calling her. And I was like, oh. So they call her. And at the time, this is the 90s, so there's no cell phones. So they call her and I hear the principal going, that's okay, I'll wait. And so then my mother had to get someone to cover her class. Then so she could walk to the office and take it. So it takes like 10 minutes for my mom to even come to the phone. And then I hear my mother screaming through the phone while I'm sitting there. And it's like, she's like, well, you know, your daughter is wearing some sort of a leotard to school. And I was so pissed and I went, unitard. And then I hear my mother's gushing things through the door, saying things like, free, she's a free spirit, and like, let her be free. And she's saying all this stuff. And they're like, well, you're going to have to get her. And my mother's like yelling about how this is crap, and she's not using up her personal days for this, and she's got to get a substitute and coverage and all this stuff. But finally, they convince her that this is an emergency and she must come. So she drives. And finally, it's like an hour before she gets there. And I'm just sitting in the office waiting. And finally, my mother walks in, and I know I'm going to get it. Because we had, been the middle school teenage girl fighting stuff had been going on. But I was like, this is pushed over the edge. We're not coming back from this. So my mom walks in. She looks at me and says, the principal said, she goes, stand up. So I stand up. And she looks me up and down. And she goes, you look fine. And then they go to have her sign me out. And they slip her the pad in the office. And they hand her this like used big pen to sign. Now my grandmother, her mom, who had just passed away, worked until her dying days at Cartier in Manhattan in the silver department. And my house was littered with like cast-offs from Cartier that had other people's initials on them, like monogrammed things that people never picked up. So my mother had this monogrammed Cartier pen that had like the letter Z or something on it. And so when they passed her that big pen, my mother took out her Cartier pen and like slowly rolled out the tip and looked the secretary in the eye and goes, I have my own pen. She signed her name and goes, let's go. And they go, no, wait, the principal would like to see you now. And my mother goes, no, I'm not speaking to her. And they're like, but just wait. My mother goes, no. And we leave. And we walk silently to the car and we get in, and I say to my mom, I said, why wouldn't you talk to the principal? And she goes, I wouldn't give her the satisfaction. We drive home in silence. I get to have a sick day spending alone with my mom, even though I'm not sick, watching The Price is Right and reruns of Laverne and Shirley and having tea with her and all the things that she liked to do with me. And at the end of that day, I was like, you know what? My mom could not have my back more. Thanks.
It was one of those perfect cold fall days where everything is blue and orange. We were on tour in Eastern Oregon, and somebody said that we needed to check out this little town called Joseph, nestled in the Wallowa Mountains. It was only a 20-minute drive, and so we went. And sure enough, Joseph is this perfect, picturesque western little town at the base of the snow-capped Wallowa Mountains, sitting right on the glass-like pristine Wallowa Lake. We let the dogs play in the water, and we ate breakfast and drank coffee, and then headed back towards Portland down the windy highway. My bandmate Noelle was driving, and she pointed and said, look. And there to the side of the road was this huge, beautiful white crane. And right as it took off to fly above us, it smacked violently into the windshield. I screamed, and Noelle screamed. Blue liquid dripped down the glass. We pulled over, and my husband got out to assess the damage. A big part of the bird was stuck in the roof rack. We figured out quickly that we needed a high-pressure car wash hose, and the closest one was in Pendleton, about an hour and a half away. We drove as fast as we could, hoping that parts of the bird would just dislodge themselves so we wouldn't have to deal with the carnage. I was immediately taken aback that this was a terrible omen. When we got home that night, I looked up the significance of the crane, and to my horror discovered that across many cultures, it represents luck and bounty. At the time, I was 10 weeks pregnant, and it was the last week of October in 2016. I remember the night of the election, my husband was drinking whiskey, and going on and on about how it was over, and I just couldn't believe it. I didn't want to believe it. About a week later, we had our long-awaited 12-week ultrasound, and the technician was really bubbly and nice, and she said she was bad at the wand, and she'd have to get the doctor, and she was so sorry, and it would just be a second, and we waited so long for the doctor to finally come in and tell us that the baby had no heartbeat. It took 6 months before I felt ready to even think about getting pregnant again. So we planned a trip to Hawaii. Hoped for the best. My self-proclaimed pagan family decided to help me. It was summer solstice the night before we left, and so we put out an altar and we put mangoes and avocados and milk and honey, and we sang songs and we danced around the fire and we prayed for bounty. When we landed in Hawaii, we were greeted by this enormous, beautiful double rainbow, the same omen that we were blessed with on our wedding day. And everywhere we went, bounties seemed to follow us. They upgraded our car rental. They comped our meal at a hotel in Hawaii. It was just everywhere we went. We found things and were given things, and it felt really lucky. On the last day, we were on a catamaran on the Nepali coast, and when the captain said that we were approaching Bridal Falls, known for its fertile impact on newly wedded Hawaiian women, I practically ran to the front of the boat to get under the water. And sure enough, I went home that week with a baby in my belly. It wasn't until the genetic testing came back at around 11 weeks that we discovered that something was wrong. It was another bubbly technician going quiet on us, murmuring in the hallway with doctors. They all but guaranteed us that the baby had Down syndrome. We didn't know what to do. We questioned everything. And as time often blessed us and mocked us, we had planned this trip to Disneyland for our daughter's 4th birthday. We had to go 2 days after the amnio. We told each other that we weren't going to talk about it and we weren't going to get the test results while we were there. It made sense to go somewhere where the joy is like literally shoved down your throat. And I was standing in Toontown, my sequined Minnie Mouse ears mocking my despair, when my phone rang, and it was a 503 number. It's funny how 21 weeks doesn't seem that long when you're planning a trip to Disneyland, and yet is so long when you have a baby. It's not Down syndrome, she said. What? Is that good news? I said. Well, what's good news? But it looks like she has a severe congenital heart defect, and I would recommend contacting a cardiologist as soon as possible. And so after many more weeks of testing and months of planning, we had our baby girl. Iris was born on March 12th, 2018, and 3 days later, she had her first open heart surgery. She came home after a month in the CICU with a feeding tube dangling ugly from her nose. And that eventually turned into a G-tube after her second open heart surgery at 4 months old. She turned 2 in March. I was supposed to tell this story on the 2-year anniversary of her first open heart surgery that heart warriors, as we refer to ourselves, call their heart birthdays. Obviously, plans changed. We had to cancel her birthday party. But here we are, stuck at home. We're on week 11, and Iris, she's our copper disco ball. We'll feel morose sitting in the front room, and then Iris will thump, 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 thump into the room, and she smiles, and her smile beams, and she has red hair and twinkly blue eyes, and she has no idea what's going on. And she's just filled to the brim with joy. She's going to need another heart surgery next summer when hopefully all of this is over. And eventually she's going to need a heart transplant that, in all likelihood, will be her own heart made from her own stem cells that were collected at birth. Everybody keeps telling us through this journey that right now is the best time in the world to have a heart baby. Technology is moving so fast that from the time we got the diagnosis when I was pregnant, they have managed to create a pumping heart using a 3D printer. The other night, I was reading to the kids, and my husband beckoned me into the kitchen. He had a hushed and serious tone. "What is it?" And he said, "There's a large, dead crow on the lawn." And my heart sank. Last time we dealt with a big dead bird, it started a crazy chapter. And he said, "I think I should bury it, and I think I should light a candle." And I agreed, and I tried to keep our kids away from our big front kitchen windows so they couldn't see the large black mass sitting in the green lawn. And as Ryan went to pick up the bird, our neighbors intervened and said that they wanted to bury the bird, that they fed the crows and they could distinguish them from one another, and they knew that bird, and it would mean a lot to them to bury it themselves. Ryan agreed, but we still lit a candle on the altar that now permanently resides in our backyard. Scared, we looked up the significance of the crow, and to our surprise, it's not the macabre death wish you might think it is. The crow actually represents magic and mysticism and change. So, for now, we're really hopeful.
That's our show, everybody. Thank you for joining us on this Mother's Day. What do you think, Alina? Did you have a good time?
I mean, my heart's like had all of the feelings, so I think that's pretty good. I really want to thank all of our storytellers and contributors for tonight. Rebecca and Evelyn and Margot and Pat and Jennifer and Aaron and Louise. And thank you all so much.
Yeah, thank you everybody for joining us. The question we've been getting most this week, as you probably guessed, is when are the shows coming back? Not just our MainStage shows, but Rough Draft and Pants on Fire and the Cabaret and all of our other shows. And the answer is, we don't know. We're going to try and figure out a way to bring them to you regardless. But everything's pretty uncertain now. And the only thing that I can promise you is that we're going to keep going and that we miss you guys terribly.
Except for you. Just kidding.
One quick programming note. I guess we have programming notes now that we're on.
Now that there's a program being used.
If you're watching this, or if you came in late, we are going to rebroadcast a recording of this whole thing at 8 o'clock tonight, right here, back on our YouTube channel. If you're watching this and it is in fact the 8 o'clock show, you can disregard this because there will be no other broadcasts of this.
I'm glad that you spelled that out because I feel like in the space-time continuum, being as weird as it's been, that's helpful.
Yeah. Until then, I'm Todd Kelly.
I'm Alina Aliar. And go forth and sin some more, but wear a mask when you do it.
Good night.